everybody, welcome back to the Let's Talk Review Show. My name is John. This is the weekly show where we'll review everything in the world of film or in physical media. You know, this way we can talk about multiple movies in one show. And this week, actually, we only have two movies to talk about. All of Us Strangers on 4K Blu-ray, and we're going to have a spoiler review for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I figure it's been a week. We can talk about it with full-blown spoilers now, unless you haven't seen it, in which case, why don't you come back to the video a little bit later. But we're going to start it off with All of Us Strangers on 4K Blu-ray, courtesy of the Criterion Collection, because we are a physical media channel first. But before I review that 4K Blu-ray, let's talk a little bit about the film. Now, there will be some light spoilers in here, so if you don't want to know anything about the movie, skip ahead to the 4K Blu-ray review portion, because this movie did only come out last year, and I only saw it for the first time earlier this year when it came to Hulu. It was one that I was really excited about, too. It's directed by Andrew High, who also wrote this movie. It only stars four people. They're the only four people who appear in this movie. Andrew Scott, Paul Mescal, Jamie Bell, and Claire Foy. Andrew Scott is the star of this movie. He plays a screenwriter, a writer with writer's block. It looks like he just moved into an apartment building that looks like it just opened. Nobody else is there except for one other person. That person is Paul Mescal's character. Paul Mescal is actually on the rise right now. He really got noticed by a lot of people with the movie After Sun, which is another beautiful film with an ending that'll break your heart, just like the ending to this movie will break your heart, without spoiling the ending of this film, but it will definitely get you emotionally. And Andrew Scott's character, when Paul Mescal knocks on his door, he's a little bit drunk, he wants to come inside, they're both gay men, so they possibility of like, hey, maybe if you don't want to drink with me, but we can just hang out. But Andrew Scott, even though he's a lonely guy, he turns him away and he goes back to doing what he's doing. Later on, he sees a person, a young looking guy played by Jamie Bell, and he's like, hey, come on. And he's like, what do you mean, come on? He's like, let's go home. And it turns out that character, Jamie Bell, is his father. His father and mother, Andrew Scott, passed away just before he turned 12 years old in a car accident. But they go back to his childhood home, and there's his mother and his father in their younger selves. So at this point now, Andrew Scott would actually be older than them. And they don't really talk about how this is happening. And that was something I really got caught up the first time I watched this movie, is like, what is going on? How is he able to see ghosts? How are they able to talk to him? How is nobody overreacting to this? Like, everyone stays pretty calm throughout the entire film. Nobody's emotions really escalate at all. They're just having very human conversations. Like, what would happen to you if you had the chance now to talk to your parents after all of these years, everything that you've gone through, how the world has changed? There's a great conversation between Claire Foy and her son now, an older man talking about his love life. And he has to tell you, no, I'm not a straight guy. I'm not into women. I'm actually a gay man. And because of how she grew up and, at the time that when she died, that was considered a very taboo thing and almost like a bad thing. Like, she is very worried about her son. She's like, oh man, like almost like it's a disease. To the point where, that wouldn't be played like that. It's also played very realistically. You understand her perspective, even though you don't agree with it. You understand it's from her perspective from a different time. And I love how realistic of a conversation that was. And, they handle it very realistically. It's not done very emotionally. It's done just like how a human being talking to his mother would be done. The father understands it a little bit different, really showing the perspective of both parents. And it just shows how they are just trying to catch up on that lost time. And then in the background, you got this love story going on with him and Paul Mescal. And that love story is great as well. And of course, it's got all these heartbreaking elements in this movie. Besides that, fantasy element of seeing ghosts, it's really not at the front and center of this movie. That's really in the background. The movie really doesn't want you to question that. They even bring it up to a point where Claire Foy and Andrew Scott are talking, and she's like, I don't know if it works that way. So they don't even really understand in the film exactly how all of this works. So you're really not supposed to question. I spent the first time watching this movie trying to understand that. And I said at the time when I was talking about it earlier this year that I feel like if you just try not to think about that aspect too much, you'll get more out of this movie, because you're really there for these beautiful characters and how they're written and telling their stories. Really, you're there for Andrew Scott's character, but the other three characters in this movie, they are just as fleshed out as him. I think it's beautifully written. It's a beautiful film. It's got a score that matches the movie perfectly as well. It's underneath everything throughout the entire film. Again, kind of driving the emotion along. It's shot beautifully. I thought this was actually shot in an apartment building. It wasn't until I watched the special features on the 4K Blu-ray that I found out this was done on a set, and they actually just lined up a bunch of TVs so it looked like an apartment building outside so they could light it a certain way. Love that. I think it's a beautifully shot film. A lot of dissolves throughout this movie. So the cinematography for the film is fantastic. I love the way it looks. I love the way it's scored. I love the way that it's acted. I think the acting is really what stands out. Is it a perfect film though? No, I still think even on the second rewatch that it does suffer from some pacing issues. I appreciate them showing restraint, but I would have liked a little bit more. I guess I would have liked a little bit more emotion shown in certain scenes. So I felt like at that point, some things that were withheld, I know they were withheld intentionally. I personally just would have liked a little bit more from that. I mean, I guess that's just a minor complaint on my end of what I wanted out of this movie. The intention was for everybody to be really more grounded in this movie. But I'm still a little surprised that no one's emotions got risen a little bit up when you're seeing ghosts. But again, this is Andrew Scott's character. He's a very lonely character. He's a very broken man at the point we find him in this movie. And this is something that he has to go through, and we're there to follow along with him. And I really appreciate the film for it. I think it's a beautiful movie that you should see. Just do not get caught up on that fantasy element, even though it's there. That's really not front and center for this movie. You're really there to just watch Andrew Scott's character, everything he's going through, listen to everything he's saying, listen to everything that Paul Mescal is saying, and then it builds up again to a beautiful ending that will break your heart. So if you guys haven't seen this movie, I can highly recommend it. I don't know if it's still on Hulu, but maybe you want to check out this Criterion 4K Blu-ray that just came out. I wanted to grab this on day one, mainly because I really did enjoy it the first time I watched it, but I wanted to go into it with a different perspective, and I enjoyed the movie even more that second time, but I had to grab this Criterion 4K Blu-ray. I thought it was a beautiful looking movie, but this Criterion 4K Blu-ray does feel like one of the lesser Criterion releases in the sense that, you know, they got the rights to this movie. It feels like a Criterion film. This is them teaming up with Fox Searchlight Pictures. I don't know if this is the first. No, this isn't the first one they've done, but they are definitely teaming up a lot with them. But that's how we're going to be getting later in the year The Shape of Water on 4K Blu-ray. I'm really glad. This is the perfect movie for the Criterion collection. It just doesn't get all the bells and whistles of all the other 4K Blu-ray releases, or even some Blu-ray releases. You know, we get the standard casing in here. You get one Blu-ray, one 4K Blu-ray. All of your extras, or as the Criterion Collection likes to call it, your supplements will be on that Blu-ray. There's a couple of good ones. A great interview with the director, Andrew High. Love that interview. You even get some behind-the-scenes stuff. 3 behind-the-scenes featurettes, which I really appreciated. But that was really it. You get the trailers, so it doesn't get the full Criterion treatment when it comes to extras, probably because it's a recently released film. So whenever Criterion does that with movies that came out pretty recently, they don't really get as much love, mainly because everything is pretty damn new. You can see that in the visuals, where even though we get HDR10 and Dolby Vision, it's not the biggest jump from that Blu-ray to the 4K Blu-ray. Is it a jump? Yeah, it's definitely still a noticeable jump. Things are going to get sharper. The colors are going to be more fuller and more dense. It's not that much brighter. I would say it's very comparable on the brightness levels. So if you do just pick up the Blu-ray, I don't think you'll be too disappointed. The 4K Blu-ray is still better. It's definitely there for the 4K Blu-ray fans, but it's shot with the most modern cameras. It's got all the best audio equipment. It does have a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 and a 2.0. The 5.1 was actually really, really good. Had a lot of bass in there. Really impressed me. Didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Again, that score is so well done. But honestly, Criterion has been surprising me with their releases as far as the audio tracks. They don't give you that many options, which always does disappoint me. But the 1 or 2 audio tracks that they do put on there are usually very well mixed. And that's the same thing with All of Us Strangers. Again, a modern film done with modern technology. So it was probably mixed just very well by the person doing the supervising of the audio mix. And, you know, just transferred really well to the 4K Blu-ray format. But you'll get that both on the Blu-ray and the 4K Blu-ray. So is this my favorite Criterion 4K Blu-ray release of the year? No, this is definitely one I would recommend you guys picking up in a Criterion 50% off sale, because I don't think it's worth the full price in comparison to other Criterion 4K Blu-ray releases, especially catalog titles. But because I really love this movie, and I'm just so happy to have this in my collection, because it's going to be one I'm going to be revisiting for years, and I can highly recommend it to you guys. Even though I can't give this a really high grade of like a 9 out of 10, I still would give All of Us Strangers on 4K Blu-ray a solid 8 out of 10. It's definitely worth your time and money, but just probably not at full price. Either way, or check out this film, because it's one that I'm really passionate about, and I think you guys will really enjoy it too.
Dream. Really more nightmare material.
Confronting the unknown.
And now next up on the list, the last movie we're going to be talking about this week is Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. And this is going to be a full spoiler review. I figured everybody has reviewed this movie, and I didn't get to review it when it first came out last week, so I saved it. We're going to do a spoiler review. Hopefully you guys have seen it before I spoil the hell out of it for you. If not, come back later. or just skip ahead to the digital code giveaway. That way you don't have the movie spoiled for you, because we're going to be talking a lot about this movie. Mainly because I love the original Beetlejuice, directed by Tim Burton, came out in 1988. Starring Michael Keaton, and it's probably one of his greatest performances. This is really showing off the Michael Keaton skills. It also starred Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Jeffrey Jones, Gina Davis, and Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, and Jeffrey Jones did not come back for this movie. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis really get very minor references. Jeffrey Jones, on the other hand, despite, not being dead, he's been completely canceled. You guys can look up what he did. Definitely deserved it. So he doesn't appear in this movie, but he is the real cornerstone of why this movie is taking place. Mainly because he has just recently passed away. He is the father of Lydia Dietz, who at this point now is a mother herself. Even though she's also a widowed mother, she's the mother to Jenna Ortega. Just oozing teenage angst in this movie, but you bring her in for the younger audiences, and she is a great up-and-coming actress. I'm not one of those people that are overly in love with her. I've appreciated her work so far, but, I don't think she's that superstar actor yet. She is a superstar, but the acting chops still need a little bit more fine-tuning, but either way, she is great in this movie. Catherine O'Hara, oh my god, she is so funny in Beetlejuice. I'm so glad that they were able to bring her back. You also bring in Justin Theroux. He's great in this movie as just a scumbag slimeball who you just absolutely hate. He plays it so well. I love seeing Justin Theroux do these performances. I don't think people realize he has this gear in it. And when he does it, he always fully commits. He's so funny in this movie. But nobody is as funny in this movie as the ghost with the most, Michael Keaton. You bring him back. I do not know how this guy has this energy at 73 years old. I was so worried about him in this movie. I'm like, man, the guy, they show him on set with pictures with his grandkids. I'm like, how are we going to get the same Michael Keaton? Because, he's dead, so he should look exactly the same as he looked in the original Beetlejuice. So I'm like, okay, makeup's a real thing. They do great work with it. They used practical effects in this movie, real sets, all stuff I've been asking for. And Tim Burton has really definitely shied away from that over the past 20 years. It really does feel like everybody going back to what they were doing back in 1988. Even the opening credits have that same exact feeling to it. Michael Keaton, not overused in this movie, just like Tim Burton did with the original film. They used some restraint. Michael Keaton doesn't even get his name in the opening credits. That's how you know it's not supposed to exactly be his movie, despite being called Beetlejuice. But he's really the standout performance in this movie. He's absolutely hysterical. I really just loved every moment he was on the screen. So, of course, everything around him, that's really where this movie starts to show its cracks. First of all, it's a great spooky season movie, so it's definitely one that will go in the spooky season rotation. But I felt like they were trying to juggle too many B plots, whereas the A plot was more than enough. The original Beetlejuice was very focused. They didn't have too much going on. They spent most of the time in this house, not really down in the town or anything like that. They spent a lot of time down in the town in this movie, mainly because Jenna Ortega, again, suffering from that teenage angst. She really doesn't get along too well with her mother, Lydia Dietz, played by Winona Ryder in this movie, who is fine. I thought she was good in this movie, but she doesn't give a great performance like she does in the original film. She's just really there. She's good. I really think that the best performances were done by Michael Keaton, of course. Justin Theroux, surprisingly. And then even Willem Dafoe. But Willem Dafoe, despite doing a great job in this movie, his character's another one I feel like you could have completely cut out of the movie. Jenna Ortega, she's riding her bike through town. She finds a kid. She ends up forming a friendship with this guy. And it turns out that guy's, he's a ghost. He's a piece of shit ghost who killed his parents. And he wants to get back in the real world. And, that seems like a very interesting storyline for a movie. But, of course, that's just one storyline in this film. We also have, in the afterlife, Beetlejuice dealing with his ex-wife, played by Monica Bellucci in this movie. And you think, okay, that could be a great storyline as well. They wrap up those two storylines with Jenna Ortega and the Ghost and Monica Bellucci and Michael Keaton storylines way too fast, almost to the point where those could have been A-plots in other movies. So it kind of just feels like they just had too many things going on in this movie that we had to rush certain conclusions of those B-plots, mainly because the movie's 105 minutes long. This is one where you kind of could have made it 2 hours long and given those plots a little bit better of a conclusion, because they just felt super rushed. Even Jenna Ortega and her dead father, the dead husband of Winona Ryder's character, they get that big reunion, but it's only about 2 or 3 minutes long. We were building to that because we just have to keep moving the plot of the movie along. The A plot moves along great. Lydia Dietz and Beetlejuice and everything that they have going on, rekindling that old flame from the first movie, builds up to a great conclusion inside of a church. We, of course, are going to have another lip-syncing scene where everyone's dancing and they got the looks on their face. I actually really did enjoy that. But then again, Willem Dafoe's character, he's hysterical. He's playing an actor who just loved playing cops back in the day. So, of course, he's a cop in the afterlife, even though he's an actor. You even see scenes of him reading the cue cards. Just made me laugh hysterically watching that stuff. But again, no point of him being in this movie. I'm glad he had a great time. I'm glad he was in the movie. But because of all that stuff, the movie just feels very unbalanced. And that's really unfortunate. And, you know, a lot of people might blame Tim Burton for that. Tim Burton has always been at the mercy of his scripts. He's not a director-writer. He's a director. He brings his style to whatever the script is. He's at the mercy of that. And I feel like the screenplay needed some trimming. I appreciate getting all of these actors in there. I enjoyed the movie for it. I mean, Michael Keaton was the best part. Every time he was on screen, I had a great time. I don't think this is a bad movie at all. It does suffer from what a lot of other legacy sequels suffer from. It just feels a little bit unfocused. It came out a little bit too late, but either way, or it's one I will probably watch every single spooky season when I watch the original Beetlejuice. It's just there's no way that it compares to the original Beetlejuice, other than you got to see Michael Keaton play Beetlejuice again because he is just fantastic. So what would I give Beetlejuice Beetlejuice on a score of 1 to 10? I would give Beetlejuice Beetlejuice an okay 7 out of 10. Definitely worth your time and money, and I had a great time seeing this in IMAX. I'm not too sure if it's still at IMAX this week, but if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out in IMAX. And guys, it is Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video that we do here on Friday, I'm going to ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one of those questions in the comment section below, and as long as you do that, you come back to Friday's video. I'll put your name on a magic wheel. I'll spin that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And I know I've asked this question before, but I can't remember when. But what is your guys' favorite Tim Burton film? And, you know, this is a legacy sequel. We don't really talk about legacy sequels and what is your favorite legacy sequels that much. So what is your favorite legacy sequel, guys? Let me know in the comment section and below. And then while you guys are down there, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer like John No Juggalo or Jason Martin, or even a channel director like Mr. Smelly Potato and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. And just remember, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews and John No Juggalo have great YouTube channels as well. Great guys and great physical media guys. So head over to their channels, throw them a subscribe, and I promise you, you will not regret it. But if you got no money to throw away, guys, don't you worry about it at all. All we hope is that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, get out in those streets and tell your friends about us. And then we'll be seeing you around.